This is a good movie podcast with Katie and Joe.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This is a Good Movie podcast. I'm your co-host, Katie Hetledge, and joining me, as always, is...
Joe Bates. I'm also the co-host here as well.
Yes, you are. Wow, you couldn't wait to start talking.
Yeah, no, I don't know. We haven't seen each other for a weekend, so I'm desperate to talk to another human because when you're gone, I just sit in a hole.
You just talked to Wally.
I talk to Wally and he doesn't talk back.
Well, and you watched Saw.
10. I did
You watched
watch
Saw 10,
which was a back to the old school Saw movies. But the more I think about it, I don't think it was very good.
Oh,
and I
really?
like the Saw franchise. I've seen every Saw movie.
It's not as good as Spiral.
Ooh. Actually, I'm going to say no. I like Spiral. I like Spiral more than I like Jigsaw when we watched that.
Wait, what's the difference between Spiral and Jigsaw? I thought those were the same movie. Which one has Chris Rock?
Spiral.
Which one is Jigsaw? Did you guys see that?
Jigsaw was like the new Saw guy. We saw it was not a good movie. Like people started out in a thing that happened like years ago.
Gosh, I've really blocked that from my memory.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. I thought Spiral was actually pretty good.
All I can picture is Chris Rock.
Yeah, she does a good Chris Rock face, and I just don't like that she does all the makeup.
No, I don't. Oh my gosh, I just do his eye expression.
Yeah,
because he does this like crazy eye expression, and I do like to do that. It's funny.
Chris Rock is a terrible actor in everything except Fargo season 4, which he's actually really good in.
I mean, I didn't watch Fargo with you, but I did see some like clips as you were watching it. I would see parts of the episodes. I just didn't think he was a very good actor in that, but like good for Chris Rock.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really enjoyed what his character was. There were some times where he's like, it's heavy emotions he can't really do very well, but he was really good at that.
What about in Madagascar?
I had not seen any of the Madagascar movies.
Oh, they're fun.
Yeah, I've never seen it. It was like, there's any kids movie that came out in my 20s I didn't see.
Yeah, I guess that would have been weird.
Yeah. But now, like in my 30s, kids movies are like great airplane movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what did you watched Elemental?
I watched Elemental on the way when we were going to New Zealand.
Yep.
I love my Pixar. I love my Pixar movies on a plane so I can cry in my seat to myself.
Because you can't cry otherwise watching it, or
no,
I just prefer to cry on a plane?
It's just, yeah, I just prefer to cry on a plane so I don't have to think about dying.
I don't feel that way.
One time I was reading a graphic novel and it was about a lady watching her parents die.
Oh gosh.
During like the late 90s in LA, which was part of the story but nothing to do with it. And let me tell you that I was just sobbing next to a guy with his laptop working.
Yikes.
So, yeah.
I just watched, so I was gone this weekend because I went out to Denver, as you know, to look for apartments because we're moving there. And Exclusive, yeah, breaking news. On the way there, I did finally watch that Anyone But You movie with Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell is so charming. He's got that Matthew McConaughey effect from UT Austin. I don't know that one on you.
My problem with Glenn Powell is that, how old is he?
I don't know, like 35.
It just feels like in the next couple of years he needs to be in a big movie, or he's just going to be kind of lost.
Top Gun Maverick wasn't big enough for you?
He wasn't a main role in that.
He needs to have like the lead in.
I mean, this movie made a bunch of money, Anyone But You or whatever, right?
Yeah, it did. And it is not, I was watching and I was like, wow, we've really gotten away from the great rom-coms of the day with this. Like, it's just, it really lacks heart and like chemistry. I didn't feel like they had chemistry at all. And I had a lot of other issues with it that I'm not going to get into.
I mean, Sydney Sweeney, I don't know if I've seen Sydney Sweeney be good in anything. I think that this is like the most fame for somebody who has the littlest amount of talent.
She was good in White Lotus, but like that's a very specific character.
She played herself.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't know her, so she might be nice, but Yeah, she is a hard person to root for in a rom-com, especially when they give you zero background information about her.
I think what happens, and this happens like, we're millennials. I'm on the older side, you're the younger side. We're still millennials.
Yeah.
We have this Gen Z coming through, and we're like, wow, they just have so much malaise and no feelings to them.
No, she's like 27.
Oh, really? I thought she was like 23.
Gosh, okay, now I'm going to have to look it up.
Okay, look it up.
Okay, Sydney Sweeney is 26 and Glenn Powell is 35.
Yeah. So she was probably like 24 when this movie is being filmed.
Yeah, I guess so.
So she's Gen Z. Mm-hmm. So I think this isn't a knock against Gen Z. I think anytime anyone gets in their early 20s, older people see them and they're like, wow, they don't care as much as I did.
I don't think that has anything to do with how I felt about Sydney Sweeney in this movie.
My feeling with Sydney Sweeney is that she just seems like she cares so little about what she's doing at any time.
No, that's not true at all. She's very strategic. That's the entire reason that she did Madam Web was to build a relationship with Sony. Not because she thought it was a good movie. That was her in for the studio. She said that on record.
Okay. Now, what you're saying is different than what I'm saying, because I'm talking about like the performance and the acting. It always seems to have like some malaise and just whatever kind of attitude.
No, my issues were more with the writing and the
Okay.
production of this.
Gotcha.
You didn't see the movie, so I think you should
No, but
stop telling me what I thought about it.
I saw Madam Web, so that's what I'm going off
Well,
of.
that has other things happening. And yeah, we could spend, as people know, forever talking about Madam Web.
Yeah.
So we should move on from that. Did you have movie news? We've already talked about a lot of movies.
I do have a little bit of movie news, and it's
Okay.
just to talk about Martin Scorsese's upcoming films.
What are his upcoming films?
The 81-year-old has two films in mind coming up next for him.
Okay.
One is a movie he's been wanting to make for a while. It's about Jesus Christ, the one of Nazareth. You heard of him?
Briefly.
And I think it's just more just telling a quick story of like the story of Jesus.
Do people really want that?
I mean, that
From
Mel
Martin
Gibson movie made a
Scorsese?
ton of money. And it is like,
But so that's already out there. We don't need.
well, that's a
I'm tired of all
different
these
type of thing.
remakes.
Yeah. I think Scorsese's been wanting to make this movie for a long time. People he has in ideas for maybe not the role of Jesus, but to be in the movie, Miles Teller
Okay.
and Andrew Garfield.
Well, you know I love both of them. So.
Would you watch an Andrew Garfield as Jesus Christ movie?
Oh,
You'd watch a Jesus Christ Superstar movie with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer, but also, I mean, I don't want to get political, but I don't think either of them is the right ethnicity to play Jesus, so we could just leave that there, but
Oh no, it's the politics alarm. Bing bong.
I mean, that's just like, I
New
don't
York
know,
City, I'll say that.
anthropology.
The other movie, and he hasn't been given the rights by the family yet, but he wants to make a Frank Sinatra biopic.
Oh, yeah, with Leo,
With
right?
Leo, yeah.
Sure.
So I assume he'll get the rights from the daughter because he's Scorsese and Leo, and Sinatra would want to be played by whoever the best actor is. But
Yeah, makes sense.
would Leo be ugly or attractive in this movie?
He's supposed to be attractive, right? I don't really know what Frank Sinatra looked like.
Oh, I guess that is true.
Is he a good-looking guy?
He's
I think-
he's charming in the way
Yeah.
that like old school people are charming, I guess.
Okay, then.
Yeah, like he's the guy at the casino with all the people, and he's like witty, and he's got, a smile, a smirk to the thing.
They didn't want Tim Robinson for the role?
No, they didn't want. Well, he got rid of all those fedoras.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my movie news. The next movies for Scorsese, the man in his 80s. If he can make those two movies about Jesus and Frank Sinatra, two people with similar lifestyles,
Right.
then I think
He's
Biden
done.
could be president.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I do want to get political. Let's talk about no. But yeah, let's talk about a movie which I don't understand the message of. the movie you suggested this week.
I don't know what you mean when you're like, I don't understand the message. There doesn't have to be. You're always like, what's the key takeaway from this film? And I'm like, it was entertaining.
Okay, so what movie are we talking about this week?
We watched The Devil Wears Prada.
Yes.
2006 film starring Anne Hathaway, Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, Stanley Tucci, directed by a guy.
Okay. Directed by a guy makes a lot of sense.
Directed by a guy named David Frankel. He also directed Marley and Me.
Okay.
Plus some like Sex and the City episodes, Entourage episodes, Inventing Anna on Netflix, which you didn't watch, but also has some like fashion elements to it, which is just interesting. This came out, 2006. It's based on a book, but it was already like greenlit. Like the rights were bought before the book was published, but the book was a big hit, and then the movie came out. What
was the budget in the box office?
The budget was around $40 million.
Okay.
And the box office was $327 million.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm putting that numbers in my little Excel sheet here, and that would be the third biggest return, percentage return on a movie we've done so far. Number one, still not even close, A Fish Called Wanda. And then number two is Silver Linings Playbook.
Interesting. Well, yeah, so this was...
Silver Linings Playbook was half the cost of this movie. Mm-hmm. Which I guess that must have been Meryl Streep's salary.
They were offering her originally $2 million for this, and she almost left, actually. And then they offered her $4 million, so she stayed. But this was for everything involved in it, how many people there were, being shot in New York City. They did have to shoot some in Paris as well. All of the clothes, everything. Like, this was kind of a shoestring budget for what they were doing. So it's great that they were able to pull it off. And it was a big success.
Yeah, no, I mean, they definitely, that's a lot of money for a movie. Surprisingly, I guess the 2000s, they weren't a lot of like successful movies. They're like, we need to make a sequel. Whereas now, if anything has any success, they're greenlight a sequel like immediately.
Yeah, I think it's great that this doesn't have a sequel. It feels like
I don't know what you would do with a sequel.
It's about such a specific moment in time and like moment in this person's life that like the story has been told and we don't need to go into it any further. But before we go into the story further, what did you think this movie was about?
So I wrote, again, I feel like this, similar to Little Shop of Horrors, is that this movie does feel like it's in the zeitgeist of like well-known, everyone kind of knows everything about this movie.
Is referenced so much.
Yeah.
It's referenced in other pop culture. Like there's an episode of The Office where Michael Scott like just watched the movie and then he acts like Miranda. And like they just did a bit about it with on the Oscars with Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, Anne Hathaway. They reference this movie all the time.
So my thought of this movie, so I think I got it similar, was a story about an assistant dealing with the boss from hell that but the boss is actually trying to help her in a terrible way that isn't helping. And Anne Hathaway has to choose between career and love, but also, why not both?
Yeah, that's not super far off. I think things to note are that like Anne Hathaway, who plays Andy Sachs, did not want this job at Runway. She wants to be a journalist, but like, it's the recession, so she's not.
It's the best job she can get, and it opens a lot of doors for what she wants to do later on.
So she becomes an assistant for Miranda Priestley, who is the editor-in-chief of Runway, and that is based pretty heavily on Anna Wintour, the longtime editor-in-chief of Vogue.
Oh, I thought it was based on Poise magazine.
No. Yeah, I should say up top, I don't know really anything about fashion, and I don't really know anything about working for a magazine. Everything I do know about those two things, like fashion, really comes from this movie and Sweet Home Alabama. And then working at a magazine
my
comes
gosh.
from this movie, 13 Going on 30, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and the best, The Bold Type. Shout out Freeform. That's where I get all of this information. So I hope that nobody is listening to this being like, I really want to know the ins and out of the fashion industry, or like expecting me to be knowledgeable about fashion brands.
That's where I
I'm
come in.
not. And I apologize because when I was looking things up for like to share about the film, I mean, there's so much about like all of these different fashion lines, and that's probably not even the right word, but like the designers. And I was like, I don't know these people. I'm sorry.
Anytime anyone asks me about fashion or what that is, I just go, I think it's Vera Wang. And that usually gets me through the day.
Is a fashion designer, yeah.
No, I know. It's the only one I know.
Okay.
Like, other ones are like Dolce and Fibonacci or whatever.
Fibonacci, no.
Goldilocks.
Dolce and Gabbana.
Oh.
Dolce
Coco
and Gabbana?
Cabana.
I don't know. No. Okay, well, I know more than you do,
Yes,
but
I
I
mean,
don't
that's
know
clear.
enough to work at Runway.
I'm wearing a baseball shirt with an anime on it, so I don't think I'm the best for fashion.
So she gets this job, and yeah, the boss is Miranda Priestley is like so tough on her, but I don't think she's really trying, as you said, like she's trying to help her, but not really. I don't think she is trying to help her.
I mean, we'll get into these things, but there is like a lot of confusion on what I'm supposed to feel about Meryl Streep and what I think Meryl Streep is doing.
Okay, well, we can get into it because I think we'll pretty much cover the whole film.
Yeah, it does start off with, and I think any movie, if you're a script writer, this is just easy money. If you're doing a movie about someone's day-to-day life where they're like working or trying to figure stuff out, if the movie does not start with them getting ready montage, you've already lost everything.
This movie is full of montages. This movie loves a montage, but they're great because the montages really serve a purpose of showing off like
Juxtaposition.
all of Andy's outfits. Yeah, the juxtaposition. It opens with Miranda's like insaneness. So I really like them. So yeah, it opens up with the juxtaposition of Andy's getting ready and she's like supposed to look kind of frumpy and like her hair is messy. She's putting on chapstick.
I wrote Anne Hathaway with the adult version of Princess Diaries
I
hair.
know. Yeah, she loves a makeover movie.
It is, again, I want to just, Katie's movie that she suggested are very, very narrow, the genre. It's like makeover / fashion.
What? We just watched Kingsman.
The Kingsman was a change of pace, and
Spy Kids.
that was nice. Spy Kids had a
Secret
makeover.
Life of Walter
They went
Mitty.
from kids to spies.
No.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty is definitely a makeover.
It's just any time that I suggest a rom-com that took place between 2000 and 2010, yeah, it's going to have some similar
Crazy
elements.
Stupid Love was a Steve Carell makeover.
I don't know what you want me to say.
It's okay to agree with me.
These aren't makeovers. I think it's pretty common for a main character in a film to go through a transition of sorts.
Steve Carell definitely goes through a makeover.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Honestly, you could even argue Kingsman is a makeover movie because he gets cleaned up and put in a nice suit.
No, that's just shopping. If you think shopping and makeovers are the same thing, then you haven't seen enough montages.
That's true. I mean, I don't want to even get, like, I watched one of the worst montages of my life this weekend. So it was, I don't know why I'm watching it, but I'm watching the Rebel Moon movies.
Okay.
In the Rebel Moon Part 2, there is a montage where they have to teach farmers how to fight. In the beginning of the montage, the farmers are very good at fighting. Mm-hmm. And they just stay good the whole time. And I was like, what is this? There was no change in the montage. It was just a montage of them already being badasses.
Well, that's cool for them.
All right. Okay. Well, that's that little story. Thanks for giving me anything on it. Other than that's cool for them.
So Andy's getting ready.
Andy's getting
ready. And we're
ready.
cutting to models, not models, but like fashion people, like these very
that work there.
slender women who are putting on super high-end clothes, their makeup, their hair, it's all perfect. They're not taking the subway, they're catching taxis. In Chelsea. Did you recognize a lot of places in this? 'Cause
Sometimes I did, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like it's
I thought
easy.
all of those women were going to be important in the movie.
No, it's just
And
like
then
a
you realize
type.
they're not. It's just like what the people she's not.
Yeah, exactly.
The millions of girls that want the job.
But she's not one of them. That was one of the taglines for the film.
She's not one of them?
It was meet Andy Sachs. A million girls would die for this job, but she's not one of them.
Man, they say girls so many times. They say that a million girls want this job so many times in this movie.
Well, they're not wrong. So she shows up to this publishing business.
Yeah.
Like right away. Like I love that they launch right in.
There's no need to like her to get the job or anything. You just because that's not how Meryl Streep with Miranda. Mm-hmm. That's not how Miranda works. She just makes a decision.
Yeah.
So there would be no like trying to get the job or anything. So I like that. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think we really need a lot of background from Andy. I think they do a great job of kind of explaining who she is, because she comes in and she gives like her little spiel of her resume. Like, so we are caught up on who Andy is.
Yep.
So she shows up for this interview to be Miranda Priestley's second assistant. And she meets the first assistant, Emily Charlton, played by Emily Blunt, who is so mean in this movie and so funny.
It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. I remember watching this movie as a kid and being like, wow, she's so mean. I hate her. But now I watch it and I'm like, I love her.
God.
Genuinely think that Emily Blunt is best in films when she is kind of playing like an unlikable character. I think she is like I like Emily Blunt, and she's certainly done likable characters. Like the 5-Year Engagement with Jason Segel is very good, and she's very good in it. Quiet Place. But I just think there's something about her that is like, she's so sarcastic and like ruthless, and she just really plays
and
that
British.
well. So this character was not intended to be British, but
I'm glad they let her do the accent.
Yeah, she kind of like insisted. She was like, I'm just gonna play this British, and they liked it and kept it, and I think it totally worked. So anyway, so we meet her, and just like things are off to a rough start. Mm-hmm. But she gets hired.
Nope. She gets hired because she tells her she's smart, which no one has ever said.
She's like, I'm actually really smart. Yeah. So.
Which then we have a whole movie to show her not showing that trait at all to do anything.
No, that's not true.
Okay, we'll get into it. I feel like
gosh.
Nothing she does later on in the movie shows that she's different than anyone else that would be playing that assistant.
Well, she is like persistent.
Okay, yes.
About things. She kind of keeps coming back. She doesn't just quit. And she does this thing where like, when Miranda's being really mean to her, I think she could just quit and give up. Mm-hmm. Or she could kind of be like, you know what, I'm going to say, but I'm going to like suck at my job to like show her. But instead, well, we're jumping ahead, but she has this conversation with Stanley Tucci, a.k.a. Nigel, a.k.a. the art director of Runway.
Well, Stanley Tucci can do no wrong, right, when he came in.
He was cast like 3 days before this film started shooting.
Oh, really? He's perfect in it.
Yeah, I know. He's so great in this. So Andy has been like reprimanded by Miranda, and she goes crying to Nigel, and he's like, so quit. Just quit if you're not up for it. And she's like, why should I have to quit? Like, I'm trying, and she's being unreasonable. And he's like, really? Are you trying? Because you're still wearing stuff from Ann Taylor Loft and you're working at a high-end magazine.
She looks nice.
No, she doesn't. She's not ironing anything. Like, the least you could do if you're working at Runway is learn to iron. But I digress. So then she's like, okay. So then she starts to put some effort into, like, they go to the runway closet. He pulls things for her. She starts dressing the part and, like, really showing up. And I think that is unique. What is your opinion on the scene when Meryl Streep or Miranda is looking at these different colored belts? Okay.
and Chase, they're trying to determine what color it is. And Anne Hathaway laughs, and then she explains what turquoise is to her.
Cerulean. Joe.
Yeah.
I love that we're talking about these scenes because these are like iconic. And what's interesting about these scenes, one with the Nigel one and his kind of pep talk. Well, originally it was written more as a pep talk of like, stick with it, like you've got this. And when they were writing the script, they couldn't get a lot of help from people in the fashion industry because everyone was scared of Anna Wintour. And she was like, if any of you are in this film or help with this film, you're not in Vogue anymore.
Oh, so she was like, she was prepared to like shut this movie down.
Kind of, yeah.
Because the movie was, like you said, the movie is softly based on her.
It is. The book is based on her.
Oh, okay.
Now, Miranda Priestley, the character, yes. How Meryl Streep plays Miranda is not necessarily based on Anna Wintour. When asked, like, kind of how she developed Miranda's look and Miranda's demeanor, because there's, like, no emotion there. I mean, there is because she's Meryl Streep, so she's playing it perfectly, but she has this really, like, icy demeanor. And she said that she did not base this on Anna Wintour. She based this on men that she knows. Like her talking really softly so that people have to like pay attention and she has like all the power in the room. She based that on Clint Eastwood. He like whispers on set so everyone has to listen to him. So anyway, people were not being super helpful, but there were a few people that agreed to like read through the script to basically say like, is this accurate or not? And when someone read through Nigel's little pep talk, they were like, nobody in this industry is that nice. They have no reason to be that nice to each other. So they like went back and basically made everyone in the movie a little bit meaner based on that feedback. And so that's why Nigel's like, he's not mean, but he's the nicest sugarcoating it. Yeah, he's just like, well, you can just quit. So I thought that was great. And then the belt scene with Cerulean, they were going to take that out, and Meryl Streep really like fought to keep it in.
What is your opinion on the characters' things? Like, do you think Meryl Streep is in the wrong for coming hard on Anne Hathaway? Do you think Anne Hathaway's wrong for not taking the job seriously?
Everyone's wrong.
Everyone's wrong.
Nobody in this movie is a saint. Nobody is doing things.
That is true. I agree that nobody in this movie is a saint. What I'm trying to get from you is your opinion on like that certain scene. Like I took away. I was like, Anne Hathaway, you can't laugh.
Yeah.
You're being paid money to like do what you're doing.
If this is your job, then you can't like snark at it. You have to accept that the reality that you are working in is that those two belts are different and that they matter a lot. And like if you can't yes and that and operate in that reality,
then quit.
Then you have to quit. But like if what they're asking you to do is to treat this stuff seriously, then I think you have to do that. I think that's fair. Now, there are many other things Miranda does that are unreasonable, but I think with this, and honestly, I think it's like, you know, she doesn't say it in the nicest way, but the little like fake history lesson, because the lines that they referenced that wasn't like real. Like they did fabricate that, but the concept is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, she educates her.
I'll just preface with everything else I'm going to say. I care so little about high fashion. And the amount that you told me that people in the real industry take it so seriously and no one's nice in it only strengthens my belief in how stupid it all is.
I don't think it's stupid. And you like art. And I think that high fashion in some ways is like art. And when you think about how much money people spend on paintings, and it's all determined by what people are willing to spend on something that, you know, says if it is like luxury or not. I think there are similar principles at play here. And of course that's coming from someone who is not in the industry.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think sometimes I have an issue with maybe luxury itself.
Okay.
and how serious people take, like how much importance people put on that.
Oh, you have an issue with capitalism?
I like capitalism, but I don't like. Well, I don't. I'm not. I don't. I don't need to get into like
Yeah,
any of those
okay.
ifs, ands. It's definitely flawed in this country. How it's working. But I guess to me, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, then why? You know what I mean? Especially when it's coming down to creating. Now, if you're an accountant, you don't like it, but you're just good with numbers or something like that, that's fine. That's just like you're good in that kind of thing. But any form of art and creating, if there's not like enjoyment and there's stress,
I think
not a fan.
there is enjoyment. And I think that also it's a means to an end, right? People put up with shitty work situations with the hope of like they will eventually get to do what it is that they want to do. Now, with Andy, she wasn't especially interested in fashion, but I think someone like her, yeah, she's using it to, she was like, if she tells her boyfriend, Nate, who we can talk about next, she's like, if I can stay here for a year, I can work anywhere. So I think that's a big motivating factor. And also someone like Andy strikes me as someone who does not like to fail, I think is a bit of a perfectionist. So it's kind of just, she puts her all into things, and whatever she is doing, she thinks is important because she is doing it.
But she will make excuses for anything that does not go her way, which I think is kind of like the one through line to this movie is she needs to take accountability.
Yeah, I think she does that at the end.
No,
not
I
to
agree.
jump ahead.
But I'm saying like that, I think that's like the character arc for her is deciding her life and not letting other people run it or like using it as an excuse for why it's messy.
Kind of owning up to like her own agency, because she frequently is like, I didn't have a choice. And it's like, you do. You just have to decide what it is that you want to do and make some hard decisions. But
she has a regular life with Vincent Chase.
Is that his name in Entourage?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Adrian Grenier. He's so cute.
He is basically what I think if corporate could design Mark Ruffalo, it's what he would be.
I know. He did kind of evoke young Mark Ruffalo in this with his hair and stuff. But yeah, so he's her boyfriend. He's like a chef. And she's got a couple other friends. And they're just, they're like regular people. They're hanging out on the Lower East Side. They're drinking wine. They're eating grilled cheeses. Having a nice little life.
Her other friend, I just want to point out Doug for a second, because Doug is, I would say, epitome, like the perfect example of guy in a movie you just recognize. You have absolutely no idea what else you've seen him in.
Yeah.
And you have absolutely no idea what their name is. Like, it could be any name.
It's tough because I'm like, well, do I recognize him from seeing this movie so many times? I don't know.
You just think you're still am I still in Devil Wears Prada?
Well, it's just like I might not recognize him from something else. I might recognize him just from this movie.
Whoever he is, Doug, is basically, I just saw him like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy in 50 things. Katie just scrolled through the entire cast of Devil Wears Prada, and Doug didn't show up. He just wasn't in the cast. And he has, I'm not going to say an important role, but he has a lot of lines in it.
Her other friend who she gives the purse to, played by Tracy Tom, she's in Rent. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's the other person.
Yeah.
What about Doug?
I don't know. Oh, he's played by Rich Sommer.
Rich Sommer. Okay. Again, that guy could have been John. He could have been Martin.
Oh my gosh, you know where you might recognize him from?
What do I recognize him from?
Blackberry.
Oh, he's in Blackberry. He is one of the engineers. But again, same thing. Just random things. I've seen him, and that wouldn't even be a thing that clicks, but he is in that movie because he's the guy who just gets to be in things.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know like what type of role he played in all of these things, but he was also in Glow. He was in Mad Men. He's in that White House Plumbers.
Definitely has a Mad Men look to him.
Yeah, so I don't know. He's in stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we got his name out there so people can know.
Me too. So they're like kind of giving her shit about this job. And she's like, I just have to put up with it for however long. And then over time, she does start to change once she gets that talking to from Miranda. She
And
gets
does a
the
makeover.
her makeover from Stanley Tucci.
So she's getting free clothes. Like what she's wearing is free clothing from Stanley Tucci.
Yeah. I think eventually she does like start to buy some of it. But they will, I believe, like designers will pull styles for people who are attending their fashion shows, like
Yeah,
for
that makes
Paris,
sense.
when she's like, oh, I have all these clothes from Paris. I think things are gifted to Miranda and to her to then wear at the event. Like they might wear something that's pulled from like a like vintage from
Yeah.
that same designer or something like that. I don't know.
No, I mean that makes sense because I did write like, how is Anne Hathaway affording? Because she's not getting a good salary. She says that
Right.
in the movie, but that makes sense that Stanley Tucci's just giving her all these things.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, well, she can't wear all of it because she's a size 6.
yeah, well, that's not true, right?
She was a size 6. I mean, this is according to the internet, but she was a size 6 when the film started and was a size 4 when it ended. She and Emily Blunt like truly were dieting a lot. And so was Meryl Streep. Everyone was dieting for this film. They are all so skinny. And they constantly are talking about how fat they are. And it's
Yeah.
like some of the worst. I mean, this is one of the films that when people are like, why did everyone this age grow up with like disordered eating? Like this is one that people point to because it's so bad.
At no point in this movie does anyone say it's bad.
No, because it came out in 2006.
It's that's so this is again one of the things like what takeaway. This is like one of the multiple reasons why I'm like this movie is like I don't know what the message is and I don't think it's great.
The message is like, this is entertaining. Meryl Streep is amazing. Emily Blunt's really funny. Anne Hathaway is talented. Stanley Tucci should be a star. And people need to decide what they want for themselves.
I get that, and I think what helps is knowing this is based off somebody, kind of.
Yeah, the
So that,
book
like-
is like loosely based off of the life of a personal assistant of Anna Wintour.
So like that makes more sense to me. I thought this was just all fictional. So then I was like,
is
no, I agree, but I'm saying like it's still based in some sort of
reality. Yeah.
truth. So it's like, okay, I know a story about a girl who worked for this person and then finally quit working for her crazy boss. But like a couple things happened because she like learned stuff from it. But
Yeah.
I was confused in this movie because throughout it, terrible things are happening. And not that there's no consequences for it, just that nobody says it's a terrible thing that just happened. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, whatever.
I guess there are consequences. She and her boyfriend break up.
Yeah. There are consequences in our regular life. I'm talking about like Meryl Streep consequences.
Well, Andy almost loses her job.
Because she can't get her home from a hurricane.
Yeah, there are a couple times where she almost loses
she
her
can't
job.
get her home from a hurricane, which is insane.
Early on, Miranda's stuck in Florida and is like, I need to get home. My flight's been canceled. That's one of the funniest lines, one of the funniest scenes in the entire film is
Terrible rain behind her.
yeah, Miranda's like calling and on the phone and she's like, I don't know what's happening. It's just a little drizzle. And then it's like full hurricane happening outside. But it's like that, I think, is Miranda's reality. It's so funny.
Is
Yeah,
this movie a comedy?
I think so.
That's interesting. I never went. So I think that might have been what messed me up from the beginning of this movie. If this movie's a comedy, that changes my perception of it. Because I went into it thinking it might have been rom-commy, and then there was no rom in it, really. And then since it was no rom, I just dropped the com. It was like, I thought this is just like... But I guess that's true. It is a comedy.
Yeah, it is a comedy. Some like it's
Yeah.
outrageous situations. Meryl Streep almost wasn't considered for the role because people didn't think that she was funny. And then actually after doing this, she was able to do a lot of like funnier movies like Mamma Mia, like just kind of more silly stuff. So I thought that was interesting. This is also apparently the only role that Meryl Streep has gone method for. She used
What
method
an
acting.
asshole.
She wasn't mean to everyone. She just didn't talk to them. So when they started filming, like right before they started filming, she says to Anne Hathaway, she's like, I'm so happy that we're working together on this. I think that you are perfect for the role. And that is the last nice thing that I will be saying to you. And then from then on, she just like stayed in character and she just didn't talk to anyone in between takes. She would like go back to her trailer and just keep her distance. And I guess it paid off. I mean, she got an Oscar nomination for it.
Oh, well, Meryl Streep got nominated for supporting actress for this movie.
Best actress.
So Meryl Streep is considered the lead in this movie.
A lead, I guess.
Interesting.
Maybe it was supporting for Oscar. She won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a musical or comedy for this.
Interesting. I guess it makes sense for her to be the lead because she is in the movie from the start. But I just would never consider. I would just consider this an Anne Hathaway movie, and she's dealing with a boss.
Anne Hathaway was not a big star at this point.
Okay.
This is 5 years post Princess Diaries. This is the first film that she was a lead in for an adult audience.
Okay.
So this is like, I mean, this was really a star vehicle for her and for a few people.
This is before Rachel getting married?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is before that. And Anne Hathaway was not the first pick for this role either. Like, she campaigned to get this role. They offered it to Rachel McAdams a bunch of times.
Rachel McAdams just didn't take this role?
She was, at this point, trying to, like, kind of step away from mainstream Hollywood. She had done Mean Girls. She had done The Notebook. Like, I think she just was like, I want to do more, like, smaller independent stuff. I mean, I think she would have been great in this.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, it's surprising to be told to be in a movie of Meryl Streep and turn it down, even if you were trying to get away from like mainstream stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is all
bad career decision for Rachel McAdams. She would have won an Oscar down the line. Now she never will.
I think she's great, but I also think she's like a little bit, in some ways, too warm for this. Like, I really think Anne Hathaway was a great choice. Other people that were considered or offered the role potentially are like Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson, I've seen her in a variety of roles. This one is just not for her.
Mm-hmm. Kirsten Dunst.
Would Reese Witherspoon was she too old for the role at this point?
I think so. Also Natalie Portman and Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson, I can see doing it. Natalie Portman is like too mean. Like, it feels like Natalie Portman would have been good as Emily Blunt's character.
Yeah, maybe. And then Glenn Close, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Catherine Zeta-Jones were also considered for Meryl Streep's role, but I think Meryl Streep was always kind of like the top choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's Meryl Streep. Yeah. Glenn Close is what you get when you can't get Meryl Streep. Mm-hmm. That's what Glenn Close exists for.
I mean, yeah, Meryl Streep already, I believe at this point, held the record for most Oscar nominations going into this, but there was a question around, it was just a really different role for her, so I think people weren't like totally sure how it was gonna go, but that did help when Anna Wintour was telling everyone like not to work with this production, the fact that it had Meryl Streep on it and that she was like really involved in kind of determining some of the scenes that got cut versus didn't get cut and how things went. That was really helpful and like lent a lot of just like gravitas to the film.
Do you? Yeah, I Meryl Streep. I mean, the acting in this movie is very good. Mm-hmm. I will state that. I think the worst actor in the movie is Vinny Chase.
Sure, he's barely in it.
Do you think her friends? And we could talk. So since we talked about him before, bring him up. Is he a good boyfriend in this movie? Because I think sometimes he's at like he's stuck in a place where he's like, I can see what's going on. I need to say something, but I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And also, this is a movie, so I have to be passive aggressive really quickly.
Yeah, I think it's not that he this is very divisive. But it's not that he's a bad boyfriend. I think that he was not prepared for this big like shift. And when you're in a relationship, you have to be on the same page when suddenly you're in different like seasons of life.
I'm taking notes.
No, I'm just saying like there have been times where like when we first started dating, you were on the road a lot on weekends, and like I didn't love that, but like
I was selling vacuum cleaners.
but like I understood it and like knew that that's what I had signed up for at that point. And I think there have been times, you know, when I was like working in grad school full time, I was like not around a lot, and like
Yeah.
you had to make do with that. And like, I don't know, I think people just have to be on the same page. And I think because she wasn't into the job at first, he was not expecting her to then get into the job. So he was kind of like holding that against her. And I don't think that is good. But I think they both probably could have handled it better.
I wrote, I don't know how he's supposed to handle it, because I think he is supportive, but he's also like, if you don't like it, quit. Like Stanley Tucci. And to him, it's like obvious that she should quit, because it's like making her so miserable. But then because she's not quitting, he's like, what? I think that's like what's going through his head.
I don't think that his intentions are as pure as you are saying.
Okay.
I don't think he's like, it's making you miserable and that's why you should quit. I think he wants her to be the old Andy.
Yeah. So he doesn't. So you're saying he doesn't like that she's changing. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that he doesn't like that she's like not feeling good about herself.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
okay. That makes
I'm
sense.
Correct.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. He's a bad guy.
He's not a bad guy. It's just like, I think they probably shouldn't be together at this point.
Well, we'll find out if they stick it out.
Yeah, well, they don't.
Andy starts getting better at her job and starts getting more responsibility.
She goes to the gala because Emily is sick, has a cold.
Well, even before that, she gets a book.
Oh, is that before that?
Yeah, that gala thing is like
40,
like 30 to 40 minutes till the movie ends. Like that's like the thing right before France.
Yes. Okay. No,
so
you're right.
she is given the job to stay late, pick up the book of what they're gonna like the different fashion things they're gonna talk about the next day, or what's gonna go in the magazine.
Yeah, it's everything that's going to go in the magazine because it has to go back and forth between the art department and Meryl Streep so that she can give notes overnight on like the different developments. So it has to get dropped off at Meryl Streep's apartment every evening around like 11 p.m.
And you can't be noticed.
Well, yeah. So finally, Anne Hathaway gets the privilege of doing this because she has to prove herself first that she's not a psycho. That's what they say.
Yeah.
So she goes to drop this off and she gets tricked.
Immediately noticed by evil ginger twins.
Yeah. And they trick her into coming upstairs with it. They're like, it's totally fine.
Terrible
Emily does this all
Weasley
the time.
sisters.
And so she goes up the stairs with the book and happens upon Miranda and her husband
having a tiff
because she didn't make it to dinner. And that is not good. And so then the next day?
Which I will say the husband on that way, not making it to dinner, is in the wrong because it's clearly the big day for her to do the magazine stuff. And you can't be planning a dinner that day.
What did they do that day? The viewing thing?
No, I'm saying like she's getting the magazine, so she's probably been doing notes back and forth all day. Worked late is why she missed the dinner. And
she gets the book every night.
I assume during the day they're like going back and forth too.
No, she does not have time for that during the day.
Okay, gotcha.
She is very busy.
All right, she's very busy. I apologize. I thought that's what she was busy with, but she was busy with other things.
She's busy with everything.
I'm just saying this day, the book day that she does the review before the magazine gets sent out, seems like it would be one of the busiest days for her.
And what I'm telling you is the book day doesn't exist. Every day is the book day.
Every day is the book. Okay. Every day is the book day.
But I think there were other things happening.
Is it a monthly magazine? Is it weekly magazine?
Monthly.
Okay.
I think there are other things happening because I believe this is the day where they go to that the showing from James Holt.
Where she purses her lips. Because then when she's getting into her car, she says to Andy, like,
confirm my dinner reservation, and then something about like a change of clothes, and Andy's like, I already did that.
Oh, I got it.
So I think it's that day.
James Holt, by the way, the designer that's mentioned throughout the movie, he's in a show I really like, Rescue Me.
Oh yeah,
With Dennis Leary. He's in that. And I was like, oh, it's nice to see him again, because I've enjoyed him every time I've seen him.
he almost he like originally was offered Stanley Tucci's role in this, but he had just played a similar role in something else, so he didn't want to do that, and then he read the James Holt part and was like, oh, can I audition for that instead?
Yeah, he would have seemed too young for the Stanley Tucci part, if you ask me.
No, Stanley Tucci is, as we've said, perfectly cast.
And so she
gets there's
noticed, failed. Meryl Streep tells her, instead of firing her, gives her
an impossible task.
Basically, what's the Greek thing?
I don't know.
There's something where, like, you can marry my daughter if you get me, like, these 4 impossible tasks. And then it's like an epic tale back in the day.
Hercules?
It's not Hercules, but it's
He
something
had to
like
do 12
Hercules.
tasks.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Man, I wish I knew my Greek and Roman mythology enough to just pop that off the top of my head.
Maybe someone can tell us in the comments.
Tell us in the comments. Right there. Not there. Right there. But anyways, so she gets an impossible task to get the Harry Potter book.
The 7th Harry Potter book, which is unpublished at the time. So that would be so... I mean, and back in the day, gosh, that would have been so impossible.
Unbelievably illegal.
Yeah.
This is... What happens is Anne Hathaway, she, meets Fabio.
Christian,
some author,
the
novelist.
mentalist.
Oh my, that's who he is.
Yeah.
He's the mentalist. The guy who, oh my God, he's so good in Psych. The mentalist, jeez.
Yeah,
Louise.
he's a writer, but he's like involved in the publishing world. And she had met him at a party previously where she was picking something up from James Holt. And yeah, he basically, she calls in a favor and he comes through for her. She thinks she's going to get fired. She tells Adrian Grenier, Nate, that she's quitting her job. But at the last minute, Christian comes through.
Yep.
And yeah, she gets the book. Or she gets the
manuscript.
So she keeps her
kids.
job.
The kids are reading on a train in the public.
Yeah, it's so good.
So dangerous.
So satisfying.
So dangerous to have that manuscript just lying with children. They're gonna go tell the people at school. You know what? I honestly wish this movie would have ended with J.K. Rowling destroying this fashion company with a lawsuit.
No, she doesn't seem to care about this one.
No, she doesn't seem to care about this one.
Yeah,
she seems to care about all the wrong things.
So she does that, proves herself, and then Emily comes down with this terrible cold, and she's supposed to accompany Miranda to the gala, which I think is supposed to be, or it's like the benefit, but I think it's supposed to be like the Met Gala, essentially.
I don't mean to go back. Okay. Is her getting the Harry Potter book her being smart?
Yeah, she's using her connections.
Okay, I feel like that's the only time I feel like she shows I'm not like other girls, I'm smart.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is that her job for this benefit is to inform Miranda of who everyone is who's in attendance so that Miranda seems like she knows everyone. And she gets this information like day of.
Yes.
And there are many people she has to memorize. Emily says she's been studying for weeks. But at one point, someone is walking up. Emily is drawing a blank.
Emily is
the head cold has gotten to her.
She's so sick. She should not be out. Watching this movie after COVID,
I know.
You're just like, let her go home.
Yeah, but no. And Anne Hathaway, she comes through. She knows exactly who it is. And so because of that, she gets to go to Paris Fashion Week, and Emily does not.
And because of that, she misses her boyfriend's birthday.
Oh, yeah, and she misses Nate's birthday.
And she gets home, and I wrote, I feel like her boyfriend should have handled this better with a actual honest conversation. But also, I guess this is a movie, and you can't do legitimate real-life couple conversations. So it's just passive-aggressive, and he goes to bed and tells her she looks nice.
Yeah.
It was one of those, there are sometimes in movies where, and I feel like because we're not just doing this podcast, you analyze a movie too much, and you're just like, I'm just getting in the weeds here. This character is not a big deal. This boyfriend.
It's not, that relationship is not there to be an actual relationship. It's there to illustrate Andy's like growth and development.
Mm-hmm. But then she's like, well, now I can't go to Paris. I'll ruin this relationship. And it's like, you had no plans. Like, what is the Paris thing? You're just not being around your boyfriend?
Yeah, I think it's just showing that she's like prioritizing this job that she supposedly didn't even want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot. Okay, I didn't forget that Emily got hit by a car. But for some reason in my mind, I thought that getting hit by a car was like kind of the reason she couldn't end up going to Paris. And that's why Anne Hathaway went. But no, in the film, Miranda calls in Andy and is like, Emily is not it anymore. Yeah. You are better than her. And so I need the best team with me for Paris. So you're coming to Paris. Tell Emily. And she's like, oh no. And so she calls her and Emily's running around with Hermes scarves and then gets hit by a car. And then she still has to be like, I'm also going to Paris instead of you. And it's not because of your broken leg.
Yeah, it's
so harsh.
But I will say Andy at no point never wants to be mean to Emily.
No, she doesn't. I
do appreciate that.
I think she's like generally a kind person, but there's also a difference between, is it nice of her to take Emily's spot in Paris? Is she nice about how she does it? I don't. Those are different.
When she goes, when she finally becomes the person to go to Paris, I did write like, honestly, just make this your job, because it seems like this is what you're supposed to do. Like, whatever your journalist world is, like, you're just very good at this specific job.
It's Rory Gilmore.
True.
It is exactly what Mitchum Huntsberger told Rory. He said, you will make someone a very good assistant.
Yeah.
Because there is, like, a pipeline of, like, high-achieving girls to really capable assistants, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not that's a valid career. Yeah, obviously, I mean, lots of people do it, but
corporate assistants make like six-digit salaries.
Yeah, I just thought that was like so funny.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it. That's really funny. And then when they go to France, it was very weird. It was like different filming because they tried to make it look like it was on TV. There was like weird angles and they're showing like Heidi Klum and like everyone like
It did not fly Meryl Streep to Paris because they were like dangerously close to being over budget and they decided it would be too expensive to fly specifically her to France.
Okay, and so that's why it's so odd
anything with her in it is not filmed in Paris.
Okay, it seemed very odd because it seemed like things were changing. It was all over the place with the way they were doing it, so that makes sense. But there's going to be usurped. She's getting usurped.
Oh, yes, the drama. So we find out that Miranda is being replaced by Jacqueline something, who is the Runway France editor-in-chief, and she's going to take over for Runway US. And we find this out because Andy sleeps with Christian.
You have to.
It was definitely building to that point. And
I mean, her and Vinny broke up, and there's nothing wrong with her sleeping with him at all.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. I think that's like a sign. That entire kind of day is like a sign to Andy of like, she's now fully in this world, and she has to decide if that's what she wants. So she sleeps with him, and then finds out from him that this coup d'etat is happening and he's going to do all the editorial under Jacqueline. Go ahead.
It's weird because when he tells Andy reacts poorly to it, and then it feels like we're supposed to think Christian's a bad guy because of this.
I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he just doesn't. I think he's a little selfish. I think he's a bit of a narcissist.
Oh, because everyone's selfish in this world. It's kind of
what
they're saying.
Yeah, where he's like, it seems like it didn't even occur to him to mention to Andy that this is happening to her boss and therefore to her. So I think that's it's not about good or bad. It's just who these people are.
Okay.
And when I say these people, I just mean the characters in the film.
These people.
So she is like running to try and warn Miranda. Miranda's not giving her the time of day.
These are my 4 notes throughout this entire thing going on. When
Okay.
she leaves Christian's house to telling Miranda what happened. Wait, are we supposed to want Miranda to have this job? What's the point of any of this? Who is the good people in this movie? Anne Hathaway saying shit is just the most realistic way I've seen someone say shit in a movie. Is this Stockholm Syndrome?
Maybe, but also you kind of feel bad for Miranda right now because you just found out about her impending divorce.
Yeah, that did happen right before, and I think that is the driver for Andy, where she can't have another loss.
Yeah.
But the divorce, it seems the guy's making the right decision.
I guess, but that scene is like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And Meryl Streep really wanted like no makeup on. So she's just so vulnerable, but it's really interesting.
She still has the power.
Yeah, she still is like kind of her same demeanor. It's just such a subtle change. And like the vulnerability is there for like 2 sentences. And then she immediately just like switches back because Snoop Dogg has to be moved to her table.
I mean, Meryl, there is that scene alone is worth her getting an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, 100%.
But she's great in the whole movie. I mean, it's just, I don't think anyone can say a bad thing about Meryl Streep.
No, that would be really hard because she is so wonderful.
Until you find out what was going on all along.
Oh, yes.
And then you
that's
fucking
not Meryl
hate
Streep.
Meryl Streep.
No, that's different. I'm talking about Meryl Streep, the actress.
Yeah, I know.
Her performance. Yeah, so poor Stanley Tucci. So
Unbelievable. So happy. A moment of joy in his life.
Yeah, so James Holt is going to become a global brand and he needs a partner to work with that on him. And so he taps Stanley Tucci. Stanley Tucci tells Anne Hathaway that he's going to be leaving Runway and it's all joyous. Yay. Then at a luncheon, Miranda gets up and she starts to introduce who the partner will be for James Holt, her long dear friend, Jacqueline. Because she knew that Jacqueline was coming for her job and she said, no.
They do an Ocean's 11, like, flashback scenes.
Yeah.
She knew the twist all along, and they had, because I had the list, and they show her hand a piece of paper. It was just so weird.
Gave to whoever the guy is like the boss of the publishing house. She gave him a list of like photographers and designers who would not work at Runway if she left. Sound familiar? And yeah, so ultimately he's like, all right, Jacqueline will go do this other thing and you can stay here. And Stanley Tucci is just going to have to stay. And he's, Anne Hathaway is like shocked and he's shocked. And he's like, she'll pay me back when the time is right. And Anne Hathaway's like, will she? And he goes, I don't know.
I have to hope.
And that's like that is this world, I think. And then Anne Hathaway's like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah.
And the final, I think, like nail in the coffin is, so now they're heading to another event. She's in the car and she's like, how could you do that? And she's like, you did the same thing to Emily, which is like not totally true, but not whatever. And then,
I mean, what she did to Emily was like know somebody that Emily didn't answer and was just on top of this one thing that changed everything.
yeah.
So
And
she quits.
She quits because she's like, I don't want to do this. And Miranda is like, everybody wants to be us. It was initially supposed to be everybody wants to be me. And she changed it to everybody wants to be us, which I think is brilliant because then it's like
You're in.
alarms going off for Andy of like, you have now become part of this world. And she's like, it's like she like wakes up and is like, oh my gosh, what has happened? She's in a fugue state.
I'm a size 4.
Where did I go?
Where'd those 2 go?
So she just leaves and she throws away her cell phone. And then suddenly we're back in New York and she is interviewing at a newspaper.
So does she get back with Vinny Chase or no? Because he's
it's
going
left.
to Boston.
Yeah, so he gets a job in Boston, and she's like, "Oh, I'll miss your grilled cheeses." And he's like, "We have bread in Boston." So I guess they leave it open ended, but I don't feel like they do get back together because she's staying in New York.
I was like, Miranda gets to be in charge and still have everything she has. And Andy, I thought at that point, was just following him to Boston. I know she has a job interview at the end, so this is before I saw that. I go, so she has no career, and she follows this guy to Boston who's going to be a sous chef and make $60,000.
No, I think she stays put. The interview seems to go well because the interviewer asks her, he's like, "Runway, why were you there for less than a year?" And she's kind of like, "It was a learning experience." But then he says that he already called her references, which I feel like is crazy. Why are you calling references before you interview someone?
Also, just for note, most references are these people calling your company's HR, and the HR says, "This person worked from here to there. Their final salary was this," and that is the reference.
Oh, that's not how it is in any any industry I've ever worked in.
Oh, that no.
Just so you know.
Oh, okay, my industries are all just like, yes, what he stated in his resume is correct.
Mine are like, "Oh, yes, working with Katie was blah, blah, blah." Like, yeah, full conversations. Anyway, so he's like, "Oh, I called over to Runway, talked to Emily, and then Miranda faxes over saying that Andy's a huge disappointment, but if he doesn't hire her, then he's an idiot."
Yeah.
So I guess that's how it works. And then she like is walking along and sees Miranda getting into a car and like waves at her, and Miranda's like pulls down her little sunglasses.
I hated that scene. I was like, fucking wave. Like, you can wave.
She can't.
You can
She
fucking
absolutely
wave.
cannot.
But right before that, the second best acting in the movie
What?
is Meryl Streep.
Oh, when she calls Emily?
Emily Blunt's
Oh,
reaction to getting the clothes, yet
Oh
still
my
being
gosh,
mean.
I know.
I was like, oh, Emily Blunt can act.
She is like, you see how overjoyed she is by this offer of Andy to give her all the Paris clothes.
Mm-hmm.
She's so excited, but yeah, she has to still be Emily. She has to still be like her mean self. So she's like, "Well, I'll have to get them taken and they'll drown me," obviously. Which is just like so, yeah, so funny. I think they are friends in real life. And I hope in the movie world, they also stayed kind of friends.
I don't think they did.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So you want my takeaways?
Yeah, give your takeaways.
My good takeaway, Andy Serkis is a much better boss than Meryl Streep. I would work for Andy Serkis 1,000 times over before I work for Meryl Streep. I would like to see additional to the good point, I would like to see Runway buying out Poise. I'd like to see that movie.
Sure. Yeah, a mashup.
And Poise changes the culture of Runway. My bad takeaway is I honestly think at one point in this movie, Meryl Streep should have been tripped.
No.
I think Meryl Streep should have fallen on something and been embarrassed for one moment. Just one moment of embarrassment would have been nice.
No, absolutely not.
I don't want to go as far as a pie in the face, but a pie in the face would be a good touch. My normal takeaway, I do not care about high fashion, and I don't agree with the premise of the industry discussing how important it is. I'm a communist like Mrs. Harris in her time in Paris.
Oh, that was such a cute movie. So I know that, like, I get that you don't care about fashion. Did you have any thoughts on, they wear a lot of...
Hate the hats.
Okay.
Hate the hats.
You hate Andy's hats?
Every hat worn in this movie is terrible. Andy's hat's particularly that baggy... That like fabric-y baggy hat that women wear in like it was the 90s, but then they tried to make it work again in the 2000s.
I don't
and
know
it's just
what you're saying, but okay.
terrible. It looks like it's like a wool hat.
Okay, a beanie?
No, it's not a beanie. It has a bill, and it's like a frumpy.
Like a newsboy cap?
No. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, well, what about beyond the hats?
Beyond the hats, I think the fashion is fine in the movie, except for the montage when she's wearing new outfits that Stanley Tucci's giving her, because most of those outfits look horrendous.
Well, it's just 2006.
Okay.
So they
All right.
look horrendous now. They were very chic
Yeah,
at the time.
I think later on when they're wearing more comfortable but fashionable clothes, that looks fine. But like the weird montage of crazy clothes she's wearing is all looks terrible.
So
Meryl Streep always looks good.
this movie was nominated for a second Oscar,
Fashion.
costume design.
Yeah, I mean, obvious. That would make sense. The whole
it
thing
was-
is costuming.
The costume designer is Patricia Field, who was also the costume manager for Sex and the City, which also has a lot of fashion.
Could you
in it.
imagine making a fashion movie and not getting nominated for costume design?
Yeah, no, I guess
that-
that's a good point.
Did that happen for House of Gucci?
No, I'm sure that was nominated too.
I don't know if it was. I'll look it up.
Look that up. This movie is known for having it's a little bit not true, but it's known for having one of the most expensive costume budgets.
Makeup and
ever.
hairstyling for House of Gucci.
Okay.
Not costume design.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
In this movie, they wore over $1 million worth of fashion.
That's insane.
The costume budget for this film was $100,000.
Yeah, that's insane.
So it was a lot of Patricia Field, like pulling strings, pulling in favors, borrowing a lot of clothes.
Oh, you're saying the value of everything worn was $1 million, but they
Yep.
only spent $100,000 on it.
They may have spent a little bit more than that.
Yeah,
I'm not
but
sure.
they got like
Yeah.
they got at a max of like 5 times
Mm-hmm.
the value of what they're saying. And I believe a lot of that is probably, hey, Meryl Streep is gonna wear your fashion.
Yeah, she wore a lot of Prada.
Oh, that's what the devil wears.
Right. Emily Blunt wore a lot of like Vivienne Westwood because she's like very edgy. And then Anne Hathaway wore a lot of Chanel because Chanel was like on board for her to do that because Chanel was seen as a bit of an older brand, like a lot of kind of like skirts and like blazers and stuff.
I
And they
see.
were like, oh, we'll have this like fresh young person wearing our clothes. So
That
that
makes
was
sense.
like
That's a good
kind of
idea.
a good call for them. And then there's a bunch of others that I'm not going to get into. But yeah,
Was there? Did anybody wear Coach?
I don't think so.
Did anyone wear
I mean, I don't.
Dior?
Probably.
What did Stanley Tucci wear? Did
I
he
don't
wear
know.
Ralph Lauren?
I don't know what he was wearing. Probably like Tom Ford or something. But also, did you notice that Giselle Bündchen was in this movie?
I didn't notice Heidi Klum was in this movie until I saw it afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So no.
She agreed to be in this movie, but refused to play a model. She was like, I'll only be in the film if I'm not playing a model. So she plays Emily Blunt's like friend, coworker, Serena, the one she's like, we're going to go get lunch. We have 20 minutes and you have 15.
Oh, the foreign sounding.
Yes.
I don't know. I want the accent. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's married to Tom Brady at the time of this movie, I believe.
I guess so.
It's 2006.
Yeah.
So it is soon after her life is about to fall apart.
Yeah. Speaking of marriages.
Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. Giselle was who Tom Brady just got divorced from.
Yeah. They just
He
got
was married to
divorced.
another person before this. I wonder. Yeah. So Giselle is not married to Tom Brady yet. She's going to marry Tom Brady in 3 years. But she's planning on stealing that man right there. Every scene you see her in, she's thinking, I'm getting that Super Bowl winner. Touchdown Tom.
I don't think that's what she's thinking at all. I think she's thinking about being in this movie.
Touchdown Tom.
Okay. I was just going to say, speaking of marriages, Stanley Tucci is married to Emily Blunt's sister,
Oh.
Felicity Blunt. Yeah, she's not an actor. She's a literary agent. But
When you have a last name Blunt, you got to give them a fancy first name. You can't, like, it's got to end in the Y. You can't have Carol Blunt.
sure. Yeah. So that's the movie.
I'm Jane Blunt. Yeah.
Who would you cast as Wally?
Well, I think anytime Stanley Tucci's in a movie, we just put Wally as Stanley Tucci.
Wally has some glasses on.
Yeah, Wally has some glasses on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess we're at the final part.
Yep. Okay, The Devil Wears Prada. Is it a good movie?
Now, I have to say one thing,
Okay.
and this is as much as I like confused on what I'm supposed to feel about people, what the whole point of the plot is. Like, I guess you learn from your jobs and everything. The one thing I do take away is that everyone in this movie, given the option, did not choose to exaggerate any part of their roles. Like, everything was, I felt, grounded in this movie. And I think is really what makes this movie good.
Yeah, there's
It's
no
not
need
too
to
silly.
exaggerate.
Meryl Streep doesn't get tripped.
No.
It's all very grounded, which is why I didn't think it was a comedy, because everyone plays it so serious and real.
Those
So,
are the
yeah,
best comedies.
I think this is a very, very good movie.
Well, that's all. I'm going to start saying that, by the way. That's all.
Wow, that's a
That's all.
great thing to hear when I say it's a good movie. Not excitement, not joy, just that's all.
That's what she says the whole movie.
Oh, that's what Meryl Streep says. I thought you were just being mean.
Oh my God. Yikes. Anyway.
I'm just nervous.
Okay. Well, on that note, do you have a movie that we're going to watch next?
I do have a movie. I checked beforehand to make sure it's streaming.
Thank
And it's
goodness.
streaming on Hulu.
Okay.
This is a movie I've been wanting to watch since this has probably been like my top 4 movies that I've been wanting you to watch.
Oh, gosh.
We're gonna watch the Michael Fassbender movie, Frank.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna tell you.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I know. There's the other person in Frank is you'll know this actor. Hold up. Domhnall Gleeson.
Oh, I do love him.
So Michael Fassbender, Domhnall Gleeson, Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Eh.
Yeah, she's no Joan Cusack. But yeah, we're gonna watch the movie Frank.
Okay. I really want to watch that Next Goal Wins movie with Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, we have a lot of movies we really want to watch.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
We're
well,
too busy watching Physical 100 for the 7th time in a row.
we only watch it one time.
All right, Katie, why don't you close us out?
Well, this has been another good movie podcast. We appreciate everybody listening and hope that you loved The Devil Wears Prada. It's impossible not to, so that's that. Thank you to our podcast editor and theme song creator, Cale Forbes, our theme song vocalist, Austin Fry, and our logo creator, Carrie Pulley. If you would like to hear more from us, then you can follow us on Instagram at TIAGMpod or email us at TIAGMpodcast@gmail.com. As always, following, listening, subscribing, commenting, sharing, rating, reviewing is a huge help. Subscribing, most of all, so please do that if you can.
And tell your friends.
And tell your friends. We know everyone listening has friends, so tell them.
Or your family.
And tell your family too. Maybe.
They're not the same.
Okay. Anyway, I'm Katie Hutledge.
I'm Joe Bates.
We love you.
Yeah.
Bye. That's all.
I'm going to wear Prada from now on.
This is a good movie podcast with Katie and Joe.